These cards, Magic the Gathering, something that's been an absolute massive passion of mine for 31 years. Played since 1994, started in Unlimited. And you're here because you love Magic the Gathering. You have a great love of the greatest game, the greatest format in Magic the Gathering history, Commander. And you want to learn how to build a better Storm Force of Nature Commander deck. You love spell slinging. You love burn spells. You love low casting cost spells. That's why we're all here. This, frankly, is one of the best Commanders I have seen in the last 5 years. It's incredible. It's incredibly competitive. It is incredibly powerful. But let's talk a little bit more about the show, the deeper layers of the format, if you will. I have 57 total Commander decks right now. My goal is to have 100. Here's the unique thing with those 57 decks. They all exist in real time. You can come to my plane, my place in the multiverse, my humble abode, and you can grab one of these decks and you can play. I don't use proxies. I don't transfer cards between sets. So if I have a Mox Diamond, it's in that one deck. I don't use it for every single deck. And I don't use graphics on the screen like some content creators. And not that there's anything wrong with that, right? But what makes this show the most real Magic the Gathering show in the universe, in the multiverse, if you will, is that I'm a real guy building real decks with real cards. And sometimes I got to make concessions. You know, I get kind of fatigued. Somebody builds a Storm deck and they include all of these zero-drop artifacts. They include a Lion's Eye Diamond, a Grim Monolith, a Mox Diamond, and you're at home trying to build this thing and you don't have these cards. So there are some concessions I've had to make in this deck and in some of my other decks where I've had to get creative with the cards that I have. So again, the most real Magic the Gathering channel on the planet. And with that said, you will learn how to build a better Storm deck. You will learn all about spell slinging. You will learn how to absolutely crush it in the game of Commander with the cards that you have. So with all that said, long intro, I know, but I promise you it is worth it. And the background's important because we're going to talk about a couple of cards that I didn't have, which I would have loved to include in this deck. So stay tuned for that. Let's dive in and talk about Storm Force of Nature. It's a legendary creature, a mutant hero. It comes out for 4 mana. As part of that, you got to pay a green, a blue, and a red. And it's got this thing called the Ceaseless Tempest on it. It's got flying and vigilance. I don't know if I already mentioned that. But the Ceaseless Tempest, and that's what's important. Whenever Storm deals combat damage to a player, the next instant or sorcery spell you cast this turn has Storm. So what you want to do is you want to cast a bunch of spells. You want to do some combat damage with Storm. And then you want to hammer somebody with a fireball that's going to turn into like 6 fireballs, 7 fireballs, 8 fireballs. You can see in a deck that's got a lot of burn damage cards how incredibly powerful this card can get. So the entire deck is built around the mechanics of Storm. We got a lot of low casting cost spells because if we're going to take full advantage of that Storm feature, we have to make sure we can cast a lot of spells, all right? Planeswalkers will be included in this deck. A great spell slinger Planeswalker. And by the way, even if you don't like Storm Force of Nature, say you play with Kess Dissident Mage, pay attention because there's a lot of incredible stuff in this deck for you. Anyway, with Ral, whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, Ral Storm Conduit deals 1 damage to target opponent or Planeswalker. Massive ability in this deck. The +2 ability, scry 1. The -2 ability, when you cast your next instant or sorcery spell this turn, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. So again, kind of like a Storm feature, not really, but we're going to copy a lot of spells as well to really, really hammer our opponent. Chandra, Holmes Beacon. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, copy it. So can you imagine hitting like a Storm count of 6, fireballing somebody, but then also copying that a bunch of times, the various cards in this deck? Like, I hope you're getting a picture of how powerful and destructive this can be. And honestly, sometimes it comes right out of nowhere on your opponents. The +2 ability, add 2 mana in any combination of colors. That's important when you try and cast a lot of spells. The +1 ability, exile the top 5 cards of your library. Until the end of your next turn, you may cast an instant or sorcery spell from among those exiled cards. And then -X, Chandra Hope's Beacon deals X damage to each of up to 2 targets. Let's talk about our creatures, and you know there's a lot of spell-slinging wizards in here. First one up, and this is a great one for a spell slinger deck. Again, Kess Dissident Mage, you're building a VV deck. This is an auto-include. Ral Monsoon Mage. Instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell during your turn, flip a coin. If you lose a flip, you get 1 damage. If you win the flip, you may exile Ral and you transform him. And what do you transform Ral into? The Leeline Prodigy. Ral Leeline Prodigy enters the battlefield with an additional loyalty counter on him for each instant and sorcery spell you cast this turn. Massive if you do this at the right time. The +1 ability until your next turn, instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. -2, Ral deals 2 damage divided as you choose among 1 or 2 targets. Draw a card if you control a blue permanent other than Ral. And then the -8 ability, exile the top 8 cards of your library. You may cast instant and sorcery spells from among them without paying their mana costs. Lier, Disciple of the Drowned. And this is the ones I had to make concessions for. All right? I'll tell you about that in a minute, but Lier, Disciple of the Drowned. Spells can't be countered. Great ability. It's a super powerful card, don't get me wrong. Each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard has flashback. The flashback cost is equal to that card's mana cost. Huge, huge card. I don't like the casting cost on it. It's a little high for me at 5. I would have preferred a Snapcaster Mage because it only costs 2 mana, but this is where we are. I only have so many Snapcaster Mages already using them in a bunch of my decks. Pinnacle Monk, Prowess. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this creature gets +1/+1 till the end of turn. Whenever Pinnacle Monk or when Pinnacle Monk enters the battlefield, return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. So again, cast it in the graveyard, get it back, get it back, get it back, get it back. A lot of features of those type of cards in this deck as well. And on the other side, I think they call these the MDFCs. We've got one of these in here. It's this. On the other side is a land. Talrand, Sky Summoner. Love this card. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create a 2/2 blue Drake creature token with fly. We're going to flood the board with those. Just a little bit of protection. We can block, we can attack, we can do some things like that. Blue Tender. For each color among permanent you control, add 1 mana of that color. So a little bit of mana ramp, a little bit of mana fixing. This card is huge in this deck. Urabrask. First strike. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, Urabrask deals 1 damage to target opponent. You can add a mana. And then if you exile it, you return it to the battlefield transformed. All right? You can activate it only as a sorcery. And if you've cast 3 or more instant or sorcery spells this turn, and it turns into the Great Work. It's the Saga. The Great Work deals 3 damage to target opponent and each creature they control. Phase 2, create 3 treasure tokens. Phase 3, until the end of turn, you can cast instant and sorcery spells from any graveyard. If a spell cast this way would be put into a graveyard, exile it instead, and then you exile it back as Urabrask. Great card in this deck. It's not the cheapest card. It goes for $14.22, but it's honestly one of the auto-includes in a Storm deck. Ashling Flame Dancer. You don't lose unspent red mana as steps and phases end. Massive in this deck. And Magecrack. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, discard a card, then draw a card. If this is the second time this ability is resolved this turn, Ashling Flame Dancer deals 2 damage to each opponent and each creature they control. If it's a third time, you add a bunch of mana. Big one. And this one actually is, it's pretty much a common. It's only 26 cents. Instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. You want to get the casting cost of these instants as close to 0 as possible so we can just ramp up that storm count, all right? Bria, Riptide Rogue. It's got prowess. We didn't go over that yet. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this creature gets +1/+1 till the end of turn. A way to do a lot of damage to your opponent's creature prowess. Other creatures you control have prowess. And whenever you cast a non-creature spell, target creature you control can't be blocked this turn. So if you can bump that prowess count up and make it unblockable, huge. Storm Splitter. And by the way, this here, that target creature can be Storm. We got to figure out ways to make Storm unblockable, okay? Storm Splitter. Haste. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create a token that's a copy of Storm Splitter. Exile that token at the beginning of the next end step. Kitsa. Otter Wizard. There was so many good Spellslinger cards in the Bloomburrow set, by the way. Check it out if you're building a Spellslinger deck. Vigilance, Prowess, tap it, draw a card, discard a card, tap 2, copy target instant or sorcery spell you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. Activate only if Kitsa's power is 3 or greater. The Delver of Secrets, amazing card, especially in this deck. At the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card of your library. You may reveal that card. If it's an instant or sorcery, transform it. So theoretically, on turn 1, you can drop a 3/2 onto the battlefield. If you're building a Spellslinger deck with a lot of instants or sorceries, you need a Delver of Secrets. It's also a super cheap card. Aledia, Divergent Storm. Whenever you cast a spell, if it's the first instant spell, the first sorcery spell, or the first otter spell other than Aledia you've cast this turn, you may have target opponent draw a card. If you do, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. So you can see there's a ton, just a ton of spell copying in this deck. Jin Gitaxias, Progress Tyrant. Now, if you watch this show, you know I'm generally against higher casting cost cards. Like, some of them can be really powerful, but sometimes in a deck, they make a lot of sense. And if you're going to have a couple of higher casting cost cards, you need a card like this that really fits the theme of the deck. Whenever you cast an artifact, instant, or sorcery spell, copy it. Right? Can you imagine, like, just think back to all these cards I've read out so far. You have any idea? We probably copied Fireball 10 times. And by the way, I mentioned Fireball. I absolutely love it. Whenever you cast an artifact, instant, or sorcery spell, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. This ability triggers only once each turn. And whenever an opponent casts an artifact, instant, or sorcery spell, counter that spell. This ability triggers only once each turn. You cast this, you become the target. Be aware, you better be prepared to win. Here we go, Archmage Runes. Instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Again, casting cost reducers. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, draw a card. The Stormcatch Mentor. Prowess. Haste. And instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Birgi, God of Storytelling. This card goes for $20.91, but again, essential in a Spellslinger deck. Whenever you cast a spell out of red mana, until end of turn, you don't lose this mana as steps and phases end. Creatures you control can boast twice during each of your turns rather than once. And on the other side is an artifact. And the artifact says, discard a card, exile the top 2 cards of your library. You may play those cards this turn. But we're almost always going to use this as Birgi. Birds of Paradise, one of the greatest mana ramp creatures of all time, some mana fixing. Storm-Kiln Artist, another one of those cards that's super cheap. This one goes for 97 cents, but it gets +1/+0 for each artifact you control. And then Magecraft. This is huge. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, create a treasure token. This is going to help us cast multiple spells on turns. And then Archmage Emeritus. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, draw a card. So card draw is massive in Commander. Now we're going to move on to artifacts. We've got the Isochron Scepter. Might as well copy some of those instant spells, all right? So a great way to copy your instant spells. If you're doing, in this card right here, it goes for, man, this version is $14.40, but a great investment if you can copy one of your instant spells and then just constantly cast it. It is great. We have a 0-drop artifact. So maybe I would have wanted a Mox Diamond, but didn't have one available. Maybe wanted a Lion's Eye Diamond, didn't have one available. So we included the Mox Amber, and we included the Lotus Petal. So you're going to want some 0-drops or some low casting cost things in this deck to ramp up that storm count. We got the Arcane Signet, great mana ramp card. Soul Ring, greatest mana ramp card of all time. I'll address that later. And then we have Lightning Greaves. We got to protect Storm. Now, there is a glaring omission from these artifacts. And you're screaming at the TV as I go on to Enchantments, thinking, Bobby Maximus, where is the Brotherhood Regalia? We need to make Storm unblockable. I didn't have one. I got to add it to this deck. It's on my wish list. I got to buy it. Don't worry. By the time you check the deck list, I will probably have a Brotherhood Regalia in here. But you do need a Brotherhood Regalia if you are playing Storm, because you want a bunch of ways to make Storm unblockable. Just put that out there. Enchantments, Sorcerer Class. Whenever Sorcerer Class enters the battlefield, draw 2 cards. Draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards. Level 2, creatures you control you can add a blue or a red mana. And you can only use that for an instant or sorcery, but that's what we want. And then level 3, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, that spell deals damage to each opponent equal to the number of instant and sorcery spells you've cast this turn. Massive in this deck. The second big casting cost thing I have in this deck, right, and really 6s, 7s, things like that, I don't put them in unless they're massive. 1,000-Year Storm is huge in this deck. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, copy it for each other instant and sorcery spell you've cast before it this turn. New targets for the copies. And basically with this, if this is out and you get Storm, you get that Storm count high enough, you can just hammer the whole table. Storm Chaser's Talent. When Storm Chaser's Talent enters, create a 1/1 blue and red otter creature token with prowess. There's a lot of otters in this deck. This could be like my de facto otter deck, by the way. Level 2, return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. Level 3, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, create a 1/1 blue and red otter creature token with prowess. And then Mystic Remora, the poor man's Rhystic Study. But in some cases, it's actually better because no one is ever paying the 4. Absolutely love me a Mystic Remora. It's a great card. In fact, in a lot of decks, I have a Rhystic Study and a Mystic Remora. Might have went with the Rhystic Study in here, but I didn't have one. And honestly, I feel like over time, Mystic Remoras work better because of the low casting cost, right? Drive that storm counter up. Now let's go for what you're really looking for, all the instants and sorceries. And this is loaded with them. We have 30 total spells in here. Sorceries and instants, 18 instants, 12 sorceries, all low casting cost, or most of them are. Scry 1, draw a card. Brainstorm, draw 3 cards, then take 2 cards from your hand and put them on top of your library in any order. Super underrated card in Magic the Gathering. Ponder, look at the top 3 cards of your library, then put them back in any order you may shuffle and draw a card. A lot of card draw. Snap. Return target creature to its owner's hand. Untap up to 2 lands. Here's the beauty of this. You cast this for 2. You untap 2 lands. It like this was a free spell. It basically knocks this down to 0. Frantic Search. Draw 2 cards. Discard 2 cards. Untap 2 lands. Again, it kind of makes this only cost 1. And with all those cost reducers, this might be a free spell. In that same vein, and it's funny because it was in the same, Wizards knew what they were doing. It was in the same secret layer, Aurora Borealis. Add 2 mana in any combination of colors, draw a card, and it only costs 2. So again, a free spell. Jeska's Will. Choose 1. If you control a commander as you cast a spell, you may choose both instead. Add a red mana for each card in target opponent's hand, and exile the top 3 cards of your library. You may play them this turn. If you cast this at the right time, it's a free spell, and a bunch of other spells become free. Lightning Bolt. And notice how these were all included in the same secret layer. They knew you were putting these in your deck. All right, so if you're going to build a Storm deck, just go buy that Storm secret layer. It's well worth it. Every card in there can fit in this deck, but Lightning Bolt deals 3 damage to any target. Preordain. Scry 2, draw a card. It only costs 1. Farseek. Search your library for a plains, island, swamp, or mountain card, then put it onto the battlefield tapped and shuffle. Growth Spiral, draw a card. A lot of card draw in this deck. You may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield, so if that goes in untapped, it's like this only costed 1. Mystical Tutor, you know what that does. Tutors everything in a commander deck. Force of Will, free if you throw away a blue card. Gut Shot, a lot of people don't use this, and here's the beauty of this card. It's going to set you back only $3, but it's a 0 casting cost, essentially, because you can pay it with a mountain or pay it with 2 life. And in a game of Commander, when I'm trying to ramp up the storm count, I'll get rid of 2 life to make this a 0 all the time. It deals 1 damage to target creature or player. And imagine this at the end of like a giant storm count and copied a bunch of times. Can be massive. Bolt Wave, 3 damage to each opponent. Huge if you hit this with storm count. Mana Geyser, a way to ramp up. Add a red mana for each tap land your opponents control. Price of Progress, all right? Price of Progress deals damage to each player equal to twice the number of non-basic lands that player controls. Absolutely massive and low casting cost. Counterspell, you know what Counterspell is going to be in here. Love me some Counterspells. High Tide. I think people were talking about blocking this in Pauper because it's so powerful, but until end of turn, all islands produce an additional mana when tapped for mana. Huge in this because it instantly becomes a free spell and helps a bunch of other stuff be free. Dramatic Reversal. When tap all non-land permanents you control, I'm just going to stick that on my Isochron Scepter. We have the Ice Storm. Remember I was talking about that Storm count, right? And then Storm Secret Lair, Ice Storm. This came in the Storm Secret Lair. Destroy target land. A great card for only 3 mana. We have Delayed Blast Fireball. Delayed Blast Fireball deals 2 damage to each opponent and each creature they control. If this spell is cast from exile, it deals 5 damage to each opponent and each creature they control instead. It's got Foretell. The Flame of Anor. Choose 1 if you control a wizard. We got a lot of wizards in this deck. As you cast this spell, you can choose 2 instead. Target player draws 2 cards. Destroy target artifact. Flame of Anor deals 5 damage to target creature. Narset's Reversal. Copy target instant or sorcery spell, then return it to its owner's hand. You may choose new targets for the copy. Gitaxian Probe. Love this card. And this card actually costs $4.17. I was thinking it was less than that, but it's a great include in this because, again, you could just pay with 2 life. It also allows you to draw a card and look at target player's hand, which is huge in a game of strategy like Commander. Galvanic Blast deals 2 damage to any target. And then it's got Magecraft. Galvanic Blast deals 4 damage instead if you control 3 or more artifacts, which is pretty easy with the treasure tokens we're making with this deck. Crackle with Power. Crackle with Power deals 5 times X damage to each of up to X targets. Huge. This is a game ender in this. This is like one of the win cons, as kids say. And Collected Defiance. All right, let me put this down here so it's a little easier to see, a little more clear. Escalate. Pay this cost. Reach mode chosen beyond the first. Target player discards all cards in their hand that draws that many cards. Collected Defiance deals 4 damage to target creature. Collected Defiance deals 3 damage to target opponent or Planeswalker. Massive. So this combo right here, the one that you've been waiting for, the one that I love more than any other combo in Magic the Gathering history, Channel Fireball. This is a channel. Now, I have the Japanese version of this. It's from Strixhaven. I love this card, but basically what this card does is it allows you to pay a life in exchange for a colorless mana. So how does that work with Fireball? Say you had these early on in the game. You could pay 39 life, you could get 39 mana, and you could absolutely hammer somebody with a Fireball. This used to be a way in 1994 that essentially you could win on turn 1, all right, if you're able to ramp enough. But this combo is incredible. I do have to warn you, this channel card is illegal. It is banned, but the banned list has no power over Bobby Maximus. The banned list has no power at my table or in my pod. In fact, we have no respect for the banned list. We don't like the banned list. We are violently opposed to the banned list. It is hypocritical. I can't even talk. I'm getting so heated over this, but it's hypocritical. It's nonsensical. And it's created by people who unfairly want to target certain members of the Magic the Gathering community. I mean, that might be a stretch, but it does unfairly target commanders. People cry, they get their feelings hurt, they want every card banned. And why do they want the card banned? Because it's powerful, because it's expensive, because they don't have one, because they're jealous. It's absolutely nonsense, all right? I referenced Sol Ring earlier, and I said I would get back to it. Sol Ring, in almost any situation outside of CEDH, is a better card than Mana Crypt. Why is Mana Crypt banned? Because they're expensive. People don't like it. Their feelings get hurt. But if Sol Ring's legal, Mana Crypt has got to be legal. You see, at face value, the committee says they're trying to protect the integrity of the game. Then why is the Sol Ring legal? You can't tell me that a Rhystic Study is not oppressive and it's a fun card, but the Hull Breacher is so bad. Narset, Parter of Veils, one of the most oppressive, insane Planeswalkers of all time. You're allowed to play with that, but I'm not allowed to channel. That's pure BS, okay? So we do play with banned cards. We do have a channel. And on that note, if I wasn't going to have a channel in here, I would put a Narset and you would hate it even more. Trust me on that. So anyway, that's a big combo of the day. A channel Fireball. Then get out of here with your remarks about banned cards because, again, you would much rather see me with a channel in this deck than you would a Narset. Trust me on that. Or that Oko Thief of Crowns card. That's a nasty card too, all right? Or maybe I'll just take this out and put together another Rhystic Study. Anyway, that is my talk on the banned list. Get on board. Our goal with Muscles and Magic the Gathering is to get rid of the banned list completely, unban everything. Free Dockside, free Hull Breacher. Now I'm going down a rabbit hole, back to your regularly scheduled programming. All right, you saw all those spells, and a lot of them have something in common. They are a lot of 0-drops, 1-drops, and things that escalate my mana so I can cast all the spells. Let's talk about lands. We have a lot of basic lands in here, so I won't show you them all, but there's a bunch of basic lands. Again, there will be a deck list in the show notes. Now let's talk about non-basics. We have the Training Center. The Willow Rush Bird. I'm going to tell you this. Ether Drift was underrated. A lot of usable cards in this. And I also, by the way, judged the validity of a set based on its rare land cycle. One of the better ones I've seen. Besides you, Who Shelters All right? This is huge. Pay 2 life, add 1 mana to your mana pool. If that mana is spent on an instant or sorcery spell, that spell can't be countered by spells or abilities. We have the Bountiful Landscape. The Rogue's Passage. I told you we want to make Storm unblockable. Big card in this. Wooded Foothills. Shivan Reef. Command Tower. Another way to make it so spells can't be countered. The Mistrise Village. This is huge. One of the most playable cards in Commander over the past 5 years. Is it Boilerworks? Spire Bluff Canal. And of course, we have an Ancient Tomb. Now, I promised you to talk about a little bit of some cards I might have included in this that I didn't have. Narset, Parter of Veils, for sure. Oko, Thief of Crowns, for sure. Again, if I was going to get rid of a channel, those would be 2 of the obvious choices. I'd probably want a Rhystic Study in here, all right? It's a low casting cost and it's a great card. I would want a Mox Diamond. I'd want a Lion's Eye Diamond. I would want a Grim Monolith, all right? I would probably want a Mox Opal. That would be a great one. I would probably want a Kren Mox. The thing is, we want to have a bunch of 0 drops so we can ramp up that storm count. I mean, basically Google 0 drop artifacts. How do I get them all and stick them in this deck? That's one way I would prove. And of course, the Brotherhood Regalia, because I want to make Storm absolutely unblockable. All right? So there you have it. Storm, Force of Nature, incredible commander, incredibly competitive and powerful deck. If you were into Spellslingers, you got a ton of knowledge this video. This was one of my favorite decks to build because of the unique mechanic. I don't have a lot of Spellslinger decks, so this one was an absolute blast, but I'm looking to make it better. So besides all those cards I listed, because I know I need a Mox Diamond. I got to get one, okay? Don't judge. I know I need a Chrome Mox. I know I need a Mox Opal. I know I need a Grim Monolith and another Lion's Eye Diamond. Like, I know I got to put those in. They're in use in other decks. By the way, again, my decks, you can see them all in my Mox field. But if you have any other suggestions of things I can add, I think I did a pretty good job with this one, like including a lot of these Spellslinger cards, right? Like, remember at the start, like Collective Defiance, great card. Cataxian Probe, great card. Narset's Reversal, great card. High Tide, great card. Price of Progress, great card. Snap, I think I had in here, right? Yep. Snap, Ponder, Brainstorm, Op. Like, I think I did a good job with these spells, but if you have any that I missed that I can add to this deck, please, please, please put them in the comments. I would love to learn. And by the time you come see this deck, by the time I post this online, and you see this, I might have made some changes, so don't panic if the deck list is a little bit different than the video, because literally every single day of my life, I'm tinkering my decks. I'm looking to include them. If I pull a Brotherhood Regalia from a pack, you better be damn sure it's going in here that minute. I'm not waiting for you to watch the video, and just because the decks exist, it doesn't mean they won't change, so get ready for that. But it's kind of gives you a reason to follow me on Knoxfield and play along too. So thank you for coming to another episode of Muscles and Magic the Gathering. I'm starting to ramble, so I am going to get out of here, get some pre-workout, get a workout in. But yeah, thank you for coming to another episode. I really, really appreciate you watching this and you paying attention to something that's honestly, I mean, it's arguably my greatest passion. It's something I love with all my heart. So thanks again.